this is Drew Dixon from Gamechurch.com, and I'm here with Matt Gillenbach. Did I say your name right?
No, it's Gilgenbach.
Gilgenbach. I'm sorry. That was a great way to start an interview. But Matt is the lead developer on Neverending Nightmares. Tell us a little bit about Neverending Nightmares, what makes it unique.
So Neverending Nightmares is a psychological horror game that's actually inspired by my personal struggles with mental illness. I suffer from obsessive-compulsive disorder and depression, and through the atmosphere of the game, I'm trying to illustrate what it's like dealing with mental illness, the fear, the anxiety, the isolation.
Yeah, so would you say empathy was a driving design goal, is to instill some empathy in players, give players a sense of what it's like to experience those things?
Definitely. I feel like there's a huge stigma against mental illness. You know, you say, oh, I have OCD, and people look at you weird, like, oh, there's something wrong with you. But I can also say I have asthma, and that's totally okay. But, you know, both are chronic conditions. It wasn't like I chose to have OCD, and so it's really unfortunate that I'm, you know, being judged, negatively by something outside my control. And so, yeah, that's what I'm hoping, is by giving people more insight into what it's like dealing with mental illness, they'll understand it a little bit better and sort of reduce the stigma.
Yeah, absolutely. So what would you say for you as a creative person, as someone who makes games, what gets you up in the morning, what makes you want to make games? And particularly like games that are about such important, and kind of sensitive issues.
I think the real thing is, I have this great desire to communicate, and games are just an amazing medium for that. And, I tried, writing and all sorts of other art forms to try and explain what it's like dealing with mental illness, but none of them were really equipped. I don't think any of them can really do the same job, just because the games are just, as you mentioned before, an amazing tool for empathy, because you think of yourself as the player character. You don't say, Mario lost a life. You say, oh, I died, I lost a life, because that the line between the avatar and the actual player is so blurred. And so it gives us an amazing opportunity to create empathy in the players, because we're giving them an experience. It's something they're actually experiencing rather than passively watching or reading or looking at.
So I'm curious, have you talked to other people who've suffered from OCD or from depression, who've played your game, and what's the response to it been? I'd be curious to hear.
The response has been really positive from other people who suffer from mental illness, which really makes me happy, because it's very tough dealing with mental illness, because you feel that isolation, you feel alone, you feel like no one has ever felt this way before. And so with the game, I'm hoping to be able to reach out to other people who are suffering and say, you're not alone. I've been through this. And, at the end, it's sort of like, hey, why don't you seek help? We have a little blurb like, if you're suffering from mental illness, check out the National Institute of Mental Health for more resources. Because, I think, when I was suffering and feeling alone, that's definitely something that I would have liked to, be able to understand that I wasn't alone, and this is something that other people deal with, and there's ways to get help. And so, yeah, I mean, and it does seem to really connect with people who suffer from mental illness. They really get it and see the similarities between what my experience was and their experience, which is really gratifying.
What about the response from people who have not ever experienced those things? Like, I don't think I've ever been truly depressed. I've had times when I wondered if I was, but what do you hope to the average person who maybe doesn't really have a frame of reference to understand depression? What has been their response, and then what do you hope to teach them?
The response has also been positive. They think it's a really, terrifying game and really has this great sense of atmosphere. And so I'm hoping they'll get perspective on what it's like dealing with mental illness, and sort of give them, insight into the mind of someone who's dealing with these things. So I think the response has been positive, and I think when you look at the game as a whole, it will really present an interesting picture of mental illness that hopefully will promote greater understanding.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm thrilled about Neverending Nightmares, about checking it. I got to play it recently and really thought it was special. So, and I'm just excited that you're making a game that's going to hopefully give people some understanding about a really, really super important issue. So, thanks for your time, Matt.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you.
Yeah, and be sure to go check out Neverending Nightmares. It'll be on Ouya, right? And then eventually other platforms?
No, we're doing a simultaneous release on Steam, Windows, Mac, Linux, and Ouya.
Okay, great. Well, we are looking forward to it. Thanks, man.